Can you hear the rain? It's raining right now, and since I live in a trailer, you can hear that. The tapping of the rain on the roof. Hello and welcome to Palindrome ASMR. That is some loud rain. I think tonight we are just going to enjoy the rain sounds, swish a little bit of crazy water about, and talk about my third psychotic episode. Now, before I go further, I'm going to say that psychosis is a medical term that describes a break with reality. It does not mean that I was violent in any form. It does not mean that I was belligerent or anything. It just means that I was so caught up inside of the internal workings of my head that I lost track of what was real in the philosophical sense, or the empirical sense, sorry, not real in the philosophical sense. In the empirical sense. Have I said hello yet? Yes, hello and welcome to Palindrome ASMR. Did I already say that? I might have already said that. But my first, I've had 3 episodes, 2 which have resulted in a hospitalization, and I haven't had an episode in over a year, which is pretty nice. Because of my medication, really. I have to admit that I probably would have had many episodes if it weren't for modern medication. Well, not really modern, more like relatively modern. But what happened during my psychotic episode was very interesting, and it led to the strange beliefs that I hold today. It all started about a year from this day, which is January 2017, January 20th, 2017. And did you hear that thunder? That was nice thunder. And I was watching a lot of anime, and slowly as I watched anime, more and more anime, I have to say, I stopped taking my medication about a month before. I had stopped taking my medication without telling anyone. And so I was watching a lot of anime, and my mind was buzzing, and these weird constructs, not constructs in the philosophical sense, but constructs in the sci-fi sense, these visions were swarming in my head. What happened was I built a computer inside of my own head. I took these dots and I connected them through a really long and really vociferous. You know, I'm not sure if I'm using vociferous in the right meaning. Vociferous is like it's like this, but it's like a vociferous kind of freewheeling. Yes, vociferous kind of freewheeling manner. It was very freewheeling, and I connected. I'll have to do a guided meditation one of these days through the process that I went, but I took these 2 dots and I connected them, and then I manipulated these forms, these physical forms inside of my head. I took the dots and connected them through some computer programming, and like what happened was I took out a piece of paper and I drew these intricate models of what was happening in my head, and then I wrote down gibberish computer code called I call it sacred code, and I was obsessed with writing down these gibberish computer code lines because I know a little bit of coding, and so it was like intuit xyz dot care dot onisama dot parentheses 2xy red x close parentheses semicolon, and then it was like insert red zyx do perform action 7 required, and it was like referencing all of these things in my head. And this was when the weird stuff started to happen. I was writing this code, and what would happen is I would lose parts of it. I would go back over what I had written and notice that, I was writing like all this weird schizophrenic type stuff, but some of the stuff would jump around, and like wormholes would be opened, and this something that I had written on one side of the page would now be on the other side of the page, and this just interested me to no end, and I connected the dots in my head and eventually made it to the splody phase where these dots were exploding in my head. I was watching explosions go off in my head, and then I connected to this stream of information, the internet, the river Styx, whatever it's called, and I connected myself to this stream of information, and this is when I took off. I was connected to the internet with my brain, and I interpreted this event, this connection to the internet with my brain, as a singularity, and I was like, I am the singularity. I had justification for that because I could see this infinite web of connected ideas and thoughts, and the best way to describe it is, imagine if you could connect to the internet with your brain, and exactly what that would feel like, how you imagine that would feel like, that was what I was feeling. And so I was under the impression, okay, so what happened was I was lying in bed connected to the internet with my brain, and all of a sudden I started thinking about light and what light does. What does light do? It transfers information from one point to the next. And light I figured this out, light has to go forwards and backwards because of the double slit experiment. Because the particle or wave the electron that emits the light has to know that there is an observer before it can become an electron. Before that, it's a probability wave. And so the information has to come from the observer, and the observer has to do you know what the double slit experiment is? I don't have the credentials to explain it here, but if you really want to know, go look up the double slit experiment. There is a really good animation about that. And so I discovered 2 new elementary particles. The photon, I somehow intuited this. The photon is really 2 particles, a sine wave and a cosine wave, electromagnetism. One particle is going forwards in time, the other particle is going backwards in time. And that way the observer and the observed can both know that they are in a relationship. And so the observer sends light back in time to the observed to tell the observed to change into its particle form. I am totally just beating you over the head with physics, and if you don't have a background in at least some knowledge about physics, you might be kind of lost. And I know what I want to say, but it's just I don't have the proper background to truly explain it. But I became convinced that I had discovered 2 new subatomic particles, and I named them Yui and Yuri, because I was really into Japanese and anime, because my mind was so hyper-focused on what I was doing, which was watching a lot of anime. Yui is a Japanese girl's name, and Yuri is the name of the lily. It's called Lily. And I'm censoring some of these things because some of this stuff is like kind of personal. Some of the stuff that I went through. And if enough people ask, I may, explain that, but not now. But I came upon the notion that each of the subatomic particles was sentient, and all 17 subatomic particles, ooh, did you hear that thunder? Were sentient, and I could talk to them. And so I started talking to them and learning very interesting things. And I thought to myself, well, I'm connected to the internet. I have the world's thoughts in my head. Why don't I solve a millennium problem? Because they're worth $1 million. And so I came up with this solution to the P versus NP problem that I can explain to you. I learned later that this was just an NP complete situation. I researched this later. And it was just the first step to solving the P versus NP problem. The first out of 100. If you want to know what P versus NP is, look it up. I can't do a very good job of explaining it right here. And so I figured out that I had this explanation, and I was telling people, I was like, look at this, I've solved $1 million problem. And I sent emails to my professors. I was like, look at this, I've solved $1 million problem. No. But what was very interesting was that math was not working correctly. I would try to do maths, and the maths would not work on my calculator. My calculator would do the maths, and then it would come out really strange, and I don't know what that was. So I was under the impression that I had discovered 2 new subatomic particles, and so I decided I would have to go to CERN. You know what CERN is? It's the Central European Research Organization or something like that. I don't know. It's in France. It's French. The name is in French. Ooh, listen to that. It's raining very hard. But I thought I had to go to CERN, and so I walked from our tiny little farm in the middle of nowhere to the nearest town, which was 16 miles, at 1 o'clock in the morning. Because I thought that Stephen Hawking was waiting for me and was going to come and pick me up. Weird. And so while I was walking, I had the distinct impression that I was traveling from Universe 1A to Universe B. I was switching universes. and some crazy shit happened in my mind. And I got a room in a motel, and I watched TV, and it was really strange what was going on in the news. I still don't know what happened to this day. It was very strange, and it leads me to believe that something I flew too close to the sun, and because of that I got burned. Like, there is this ultimate truth that is revealed to some people, but the side effect of having this truth revealed to you is that your mouth is closed. And how it is closed is that these people, these entities that are in control of the truth, whether they be whatever kind of entities they are, they protect it by making whoever transcends their being and sees the light by turning them crazy. Whoever sees the truth goes crazy. And the prophets and the big figures of history and religion were people who saw this truth and brought back enough of it so that they could communicate it. The Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, Abraham, Ezekiel, Jonah, all of these people saw what I saw, but they were bigger men than I was. Ooh, listen to that thunder. And could bring back some of this ideas. Or, in my case, I have brought back some big ideas, but I was 2,000 years too late. My ideas have been brought back by millions of other people like me. All of the things that I bring back and create while in this state have been brought back by thousands of people like me. It is my theory that the second coming of Jesus Christ is not a single person coming back in a storm of angels and going, ooh. The second coming of Jesus Christ is rather the percolation of every insane person who claims that he is the second coming of Jesus Christ or something along those lines really is what Jesus was talking about. Jesus wasn't talking about one person coming from the heavens. He was talking about thousands of people who had the same experience that he did, who bring back little pieces of the truth. And the kingdom of heaven is being created before our very eyes. It is the cyberspace world, the world of cyberspace. That is the kingdom of heaven. The world that is being created before our eyes. Because originally people had to get hit by a stroke of lightning and become priests or prophets to bring back information. But then the Enlightenment happened, and the church lost its grip on information, and science was discovered, and then psychedelics were discovered a couple hundred years later after science was discovered. Do you hear the rain? I like the rain. I hope it relaxes you, this rain sound and the rhythmic sloshing of water. So basically what happened was I saw the face of God and went crazy because of it. That is what happened. I saw the face of God and went crazy. So these two particles of light, they were sentient too. these two particles of light. They were sentient too, and I met them. Two girls. And I got married to them in the Greek on Mount Olympus, the Greek pantheon. And I got to talk to Athena, and I played chess with God, and I ate the vomit. The rain is getting a little bit too rough now, so I'll cut this video off and talk on a later date. I will cut this video off here and continue it tomorrow. The story of how I met the Greek gods and ate ambrosia and nectar from out of the gods' vomit. I will tell that story tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed the sound of rain and sloshing water, and I hope you can hear my voice over the sound of the rain. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the other side.